First Minister of Northern Ireland, Baroness Arlene Foster-Shona. Arlene, thanks both for being with us early on a Saturday morning. We do appreciate it. Let's crack straight on. We'll start with the Daily Mail, Shona. You've picked this one to start with, as we've heard that quote from the President.
Yes, so obviously a lot of papers have headlines and stories about the suspected assassin being held, Tyler Robinson, in the US, and a lot of different angles on this, as you would expect. But this very striking line from Donald Trump, "Killer deserves the death penalty," really highlighting the difference between the US and the UK in terms of criminal justice and media and you know, what people are actually allowed to say after someone's been arrested and charged, obviously, with a very serious crime here. So Trump was directly asked by a journalist, you know, what he expected would happen, and he said he expected that Tyler Robinson would be convicted and he hoped he would get the death penalty. And this is in the context, of course, of Charlie Kirk, the man who was assassinated, being a very close ally of Trump and him taking this very personally. And I think what a lot of the papers are highlighting is the fact that you would hope in these sorts of circumstances a US president would be calling for calm, calling for unity, and that's not what we're getting, unfortunately, from Donald Trump, which, you know, maybe is to be expected.
Yeah, sorry, Arlene, Utah is, where this happened, is one of the only states, one of only 5 states that still has firing squads. When you carry out the death penalty. So that's what this man would face if it gets to that level.
Which I think makes the headline even worse, actually, because in this country, of course, we're always very careful when someone is an alleged killer. But here we have the president saying, I want him to face the death penalty. And I think what we would all be concerned about is a fair trial. We want whoever killed Charlie Kirk to come to justice. We want him to be brought to that justice. But it does, again, strike the difference between the UK and the USA, as you've just said, because they have the death penalty still in a number of states. And this young man, who, if he has committed this, will undoubtedly be facing that.
Yeah, he will. Let's move on to the Times then, which has a picture. I mean, this is kind of extraordinary as well, isn't it? A picture of the alleged family. And, Arlene, you're going to take us through this because the reporting suggests that it was a family that turned him in. I
think this photograph is incredibly sad. Here we have any sort of everyday family smiling for the camera. There's obviously another younger member of the family there who's been pixelated. But here we have the family. And this young man is now the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk, and it's just incredibly sad. And we've been told from media reports that the father, who is a former police officer, a veteran police officer, was part of handing him in. I mean, how incredibly sad is that?
Yeah, I mean, talking about this with my wife yesterday, it is an incredible thing, isn't it? Like a father having to do that to a son, and what you would do if you knew that your childhood had done something like this.
Well, I heard one contributor say that one of the reasons why this so often happens is that the family members will say to the accused person, you will be caught, you will be pursued, and other people might be hurt, or you yourself might be hurt, might be killed in the process. And so if you're going to do one decent thing, you know, it is to hand yourself in. It's really interesting inside the Times to see, obviously there's a scramble for information about this suspect, people desperately looking for a motive. A lot of people probably very confused by some of the things about inscriptions on bullets, which very much refer to an online culture, which I'm certainly 20 years too old to really understand. One of the headlines inside is child genius had always liked guns, but on closer inspection it's his mammy calling him a genius, you know, on Facebook after he got good results, very good results it seems at school, but it's a bit premature to declare that he was a genius. But obviously that's what happens when you've got a very live case and everyone wants to try and get answers, and so you're going to every source you can, you're combing through the social media to try and find something that gives us clues into who this person was. Just
a reflection from both of you then, on before we move on, about sort of the impact of social media on this, the impact of the internet, because it would appear as if this individual, the alleged killer, was deep in the internet. That's how it's been described. There's all these sorts of groups that are being talked about on the far right, the far left. I wonder what you think about the way that some young people are radicalised by lots of the things that they're seeing online, and how much worse that might well be getting, especially in a society like the United States.
It is very difficult. I mean, I took part in the online safety bill when it was going through Parliament, and the focus then was online safety in terms of children and abusers and what we could do to try and stop that. But this sort of radicalisation as well is very much happening online, on the left and on the right. And it is very worrying. And as a mother of three, I do worry about these sorts of things, and I'm sure others do as well.
Joanna?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what 22-year-old anywhere in the developed world isn't chronically online.
But that's the word, isn't it? It's not about just sort of dipping in and out and getting, doing your referencing for your lecture or your exam that you've got coming up. It's about being on these things all the time and being in that space all the time.
But you've also got the young people who are very influenced by Charlie Kirk, who has a certain manner and delivery. And I'm not trying to say they're the same in every respect, of course, but Andrew Tate's another one who does this very quick-witted, but also full of bluster. And it's the kind of thing that you can make a TikTok, you can make a little viral reel, and people will go, oh, that guy. Some people, younger people especially, who maybe don't have the critical thinking we would hope, think, oh, that guy sounds like he's got the right idea. And so I think young people are very, very influenced by that. And then obviously it can go in the other way, and people can respond in the way that this young man allegedly has done.
I'm glad you used the term critical thinking, because we're going to move on to Peter Mandelson and the affair facing the government, and whether or not there should have been a bit more critical thinking there. Arlene, what do you think?
Absolutely. Well, the Times gives it quite a lot of coverage today again. Mandelson, number 10, was told, and this is now not about Peter Mandel so much as it is about Sir Keir Starmer. And what did he know when he went to Parliament on Wednesday to those Prime Minister's question time, and was very definitive about his backing.
Oh, unequivocal. It was fulsome.
Very much so. Full confidence, which I don't think anybody wants to have full confidence anymore.
No, it's like a chairman to a manager, isn't it? You're about to go.
It's now turned into a sign that you're on your way. But we're told in the Times that the Foreign Office was sent details of a cache of emails early on Tuesday and passed them to number 10 2 days before Starmer decided to sack Mandelson. So that's quite critical, and I think others will be looking at that as well.
Well, there's a grey area there, because I was speaking to Douglas Alexander about just this yesterday, and he said that the emails were the thing that did it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Those emails that were seen after PMQs, so that was Wednesday. So the timeline from what I got from Alexander yesterday is slightly different.
They apparently had all this days before Keir Starmer said he had his full support. And what's interesting in this latest development is the suggestion that Mandelson will not go quietly. We'll say he's been unfairly dismissed. And I suppose the key part here is that because he refused to resign, the government would have to prove he had materially misled ministers and officials about his relationship with Epstein. So I suppose the point he's perhaps going to make is, you knew I was a wrong-un, and you still appointed me and still allowed me to do this, which is an interesting line to potentially take. But I think, we've got this speech and quote that's being repeated where Keir Starmer is saying, some people love him, some people love to hate him, but to us he's just Peter. Very much acknowledging that he's a potentially polarising and difficult figure, but yet he was in this role. And I think a big part of Keir Starmer defending him is because we have this Trump state visit coming up, and we don't want to be without an ambassador.
They've lost him now. Arlene, just a final thought on that, because some of the reporting yesterday, and perhaps we'll see some more of it on Sunday, is about the relationship between Peter Mandelson and the Prime Minister's closer advisor, Morgan McSweeney. And one wonders, if Mandelson's not going to go quietly, what that could actually do to the top of government.
Indeed, and I think Peter Mandelson has been around for a long time. He goes out of government, he comes back into government, he goes out of government, he comes back into government. But here he is again now, holding down the role as Ambassador of the United States. This comes along, and he's not going to go quietly, I don't think.
You don't think?
He loved that job, he wanted to stay, and he's basically saying, you knew all about this, why are you removing me?
There's trouble ahead. Shona, Arlene, thank you for that. More from you, of course, throughout the morning. Do appreciate that. All right, well, stay with us, because there's plenty more to come on the breakfast programme. Of course, we'll be back at the top of the next hour. We'll have the very latest from the United States, as the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk has been held by authorities in Utah, and we hear from Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica. Stay with us.
Hear that whistle and that crunch? We